Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today we're gonna talk about the books I read in August, which weren't actually that many. I only read 6 books in August, but at least 2 were quite big and quite they took quite a bit of time to get through. So I finished 6 books, which I think is fine. And I DNF'd one. So let's start with the DNF because obviously that's the one I never finished. And that is The Spoken Kingdom by Tahira Mafi. I read other books by her that I really liked, but I just could not get into this one. It is like one of those romantasy books that make it seem like they are a fantasy, and then the relationship of the main character is like a really, really big point of the book. And I do not like books like that. I got this in a book box, which is why I have it. I wouldn't have bought it otherwise, to be honest. But yeah, I think the book looks really, really nice. It's the Illumicrate edition. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about the book because I didn't get far into it. It is about a girl who is a servant, and she's also half jinn or like completely jinn, one of the two. And so she has to kind of hide herself because humans are now like the main species on Earth, and jinn are like, they are technically in like a truce with the humans, but the humans don't treat them really well, and they are afraid of them still because they have magic. And so her family got killed, I think, and so she hides herself as a servant, and then she meets the crown prince, and yeah, everything goes from there. But yeah, I was not impressed with that. It's just not a type of book I enjoy, which was part of the reason why I stopped getting the Illumicrate fantasy box, because that was the type of book that was in there. So yeah, these will be in my TBR again and again, because I do own quite a few still that I never read, which probably will all DNF, but I will give them all a try. This one just wasn't it for me. Then the first book I actually read in the month and I finished was Adrian Tchaikovsky, Eyes of the Void, which is the second book in the Architects series. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it quite a bit. The 4 stars are mainly because there was kind of a drag in the middle, which happens, second book syndrome. It's not that rare that the second book has a little bit of a hanger in the middle. And so this one had it as well. We were on a planet, and I felt like the whole thing was just way too drawn out on the planet. And the rest of the book was really, really nice. I love the characters in the series. I do plan on continuing the series because there's a 3rd book out there. Yeah, it's a really, really cool sci-fi series which has architects which are as big as moons, and they redesign planets and kill everything that is on them whilst doing that. And the book is kind of like, finding out how you can deal with the architects and save the people and working together with other aliens, and then there are different factions that come into it and all of that. So yeah, a really, really cool book. There's action, there's research, there is space travel. So yeah, it is a really, really interesting book, but it did have the hanger in the middle. So hopefully the 3rd one will be full of action and learning more about the architects. So yeah, I will at some point read that, but so far so good. The first one got 5 stars, this one got 4 stars, which I think is a pretty good rating. Then we have the book out of the horror book box that I got from Illumicrate, which is the Evernight. This is The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Kaur. I really like this book. I give it 4 stars. This is a really gory book. It is a book about kind of like a school/college where people go that are born with abilities, and all of those abilities are pretty problematic abilities in normal society's ways, because they have all to do with killing people, either accidentally or willfully. And our main character can take people apart and make them suffer while doing it. And she did that to some pretty bad men in her life, and so yeah, they kidnapped her and put her in the school. You can either go to the school on your own will, free will, or you can be kidnapped and brought to the school. Both are possible, and we have examples for both in the book. And then everything goes wrong at the school. There are a lot of people dying, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of gore in the book, but I really enjoyed it. It is kind of dark academia-ish. A lot of this plays out in the library. I get why this book is not for everyone, because there isn't that much of a story, to be totally honest. It's pretty obvious from the beginning what the problems are. The book switches incredibly often between perspectives and times, because we have 3 timelines. We have the past, we have the present, and then we have a little bit of in the middle. Like, we have our main character's past, we have when she first comes to the school, and then the present where everything is happening that is like pretty horrible. And yeah, that is what is going on with the book. It, like, the chapters are really short, and then you switch between times, which can be disorienting. I really enjoyed that. And then also the writing style feels really modern and really abrupt, I would say. It's like a really abrupt writing style, with like short sentences, really getting to the point directly, no like running in circles, describing things. Is just like really in your face, and I really enjoy that, but I do get why people might not enjoy this. But yeah, I love this edition. I think it's an incredibly pretty book. Also, like, if you go in there, maybe that can tell you how the book is, because this is a scene of the book, painted in red, as you can see. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. 4 stars. It was a really good book, but like because there wasn't really much to the story, and the story is really going nowhere, really, I gave it 4 stars, because, you know, it's an entertaining book, but it's not a book where you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Hopefully. Then we have a 3-star read, and that is Bloodline by James Rollins. This was one of the more boring James Rollins for me personally. It feels a little bit like early Dan Brown, because this has to do with Templars and bloodlines and DNA and living an immortal life, and also with the president's daughter and her baby. She gets kidnapped. Our main character, which is Gray Pierce, has to find her, rescue her, find the baby, rescue the baby, you know, all of that. But I felt like for a James Rollins, it was really boring. It is still action-packed. You still have all of the like aspects of James Rollins books, if you've ever read one. Like your typical action, military, adventure thriller. Kind of, that is the description I give when I talk about them. And normally it also has like kind of a supernatural aspect, which obviously is in there, but it feels like such a normal supernatural aspect with like living forever and stuff like that. And then the early Dan Brown books handled the topic a lot more interesting, I would say. Depends on what you like reading. But yeah, other than that, it's your typical military novel, you know. Buff guys, pretty women, and a lot of rescuing. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. The other ones I read by him were 4 stars, so it's a little bit less great. But on the other hand, it's still a good like action adventure thriller. So if you like those, I would still recommend it. It just wasn't my favorite from him. Then I read a German book this month, and that is Patrick Süskind's Das Parfum, or The Perfume, The Story of a Murder. And this was really, really surprising for me. I still haven't watched the movie, which I still need to get around to that. This is the classic. I don't know if you've watched the movie, but there's a movie out there which is pretty well known, I would say. This is the story of Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, and he is born in France in the 1800s, I think, and his mother doesn't care for him. She just wants the baby gone, so she plans on letting the baby die, because all of her other children have died anyway, so she doesn't really care. But Jean-Baptiste cries because he wants to live, and gets picked up by an orphanage from the church, and his mother gets executed for letting him die, pretty much. And yeah, all of the people in the book are horrible. which is kind of a fun aspect of the book. But Jean-Baptiste grows up to kill women. He doesn't smell, and he has an incredible, like, he has no body odor, and he has an incredible sense of smell, and he kind of lives through smell, and so he at some point becomes a perfumer. I don't know what the English word for that is. Somebody who makes perfumes. He works himself up to that, and then he smells a girl, and that is the most wonderful smell he has ever smelled. And then his life's mission is to make perfume that has the smell of the woman, and that is what he does. He kills women and gets their perfume. And I only ever watched the movie, so obviously I had the movie in my head, but only snippets of the movie, because it has been quite some time, I guess like 15-16 years that I watched the movie, and so I expected a completely different book than what I got, because this is just the life story of Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, coupled with him obviously murdering people at the end, but the murdering is like a really, really small part of the book and is not the focus of the book. I remembered the movie being a big focus on the killing, but I'm not even sure anymore if that's the case, because I really need to rewatch the movie. But yeah, so I went into this expecting kind of like a thriller. The book is from the 80s, so it's not like it's an old book, like old book, you know. So I expected a thriller, and what I got was a historical fiction about a murderer, which I enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a really, really great book. I like the bluntness of the story. There's a lot of misogyny in here due to the times the book portrays. And yeah, it's like a historical fiction / true crime story, but like the true crime part is really small. But yeah, so I was surprised that I still did really enjoy the book, because it's not something I would have picked up if I would have known it's a historical fiction primarily. So that was really nice that I didn't know, because I did enjoy it quite a bit. But yeah, I guess the movie might be the same. I just only remember the parts of him handling the women and nothing else, and that is such a small part in the book. So yeah, I was a little bit confused, but yeah, that means I do have to rewatch the movie. But yeah, I would actually really recommend. I don't know how the translations are, but the German version is a really good version. Then I did a reread of Joyland, which is also a 4-star read, and yeah, I have this illustrated edition of Hard Case Crimes. This is a typical Stephen King story about an amusement park, and somebody died there, and our main character takes a summer job and has a lot of experiences there, and kind of investigates into the girl that died there and stuff like that. I really like it. It's a good, enjoyable interluding book, like you can just throw in between other books. It's not a big book, it's a really, really short read, but it's really enjoyable. And if you, like myself, love stories about amusement parks, especially spooky stories about amusement parks, I would really recommend the book, because I think it's really great for that. Also, this version has illustrations in it, like these, which I absolutely love in books. So yeah, I would really recommend the hardcover version with the illustrations, because I feel like that makes the book like even better. But yeah, it's obviously not like a standout book, you know, that is amazing. It's like a really entertaining book, and maybe more of a palatable book coming from Stephen King. We all know that some of his books aren't as palatable for everyone, but like this one is just, yeah, you know, pretty average and toned down for Stephen King, I would say. And then the last book, which I finished today on the last day of the month, is the first part of Words of Radiance. And this is really hard to rate for me, because I did enjoy the story, I did not enjoy the length of the book, and I don't know how much I should deduct from my rating for hating how long the book is. This is the second part in the Stormlight Archives. It is the first time reading the series for me, and I gave it a low 4 stars in the end, which I will stick with for the time being. But I feel like the book has way too much filler. I compared it in the vlog with like the amount of time I have to invest into reading is just not given through the story. Like, the story isn't as good as the amount of time I have to put into reading it. It is too big. It is just too big. The story isn't enough for that. I don't quite get why people love it as much as they do. I think it's a nice story. In my eyes, it doesn't compare to Mistborn. I think Mistborn is by far better. This is just at points boring because of how much filler is in there, and then the characters went into weird directions in this one, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but is fine in the end, because obviously characters need to evolve, and even if it's a direction I would maybe not have chosen, obviously that's fine. But yeah, there was so much unnecessary information in here, and like even chapters where I was like, yeah, okay, we didn't, like, this didn't further the story at all, and it was just, you know, if you think about this just being half of the book, because obviously this is part 1 of Words of Radiance, and there's a part 2 still that I need to read, which is technically 1 book. I think it's too much filler. I just think it's not necessary. So yeah, we are at a low 4 stars. I have really thought about giving it 3 stars. It does feel a little bit too harsh, but we will see how the second half goes. If it continues like that, I will have to maybe go down with rating. I don't know, but I wasn't impressed, to be honest. I think that is what I get out of the book. I wasn't impressed. I kind of thought there would be more to the story, to be honest. Maybe like all of the like really good important things are in the second book, but like that's annoying as well, because like why do I need to read like 1,000 pages to get to the good parts? That would also suck. So it might be a little bit harsh there, but I did not enjoy the reading of the book. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed what is like the important bits of the story in the book, but I did not enjoy the process of reading the book, which is obviously a problem. So yeah. But I finished it today, which made me really proud that I did manage to finish it this month, because I had 360 pages to read today of that book, and I managed that, so I'm really proud of that. So yeah, those are the books that I read in August. I think pages-wise, it's actually a lot, but like book-wise, obviously it isn't, because some of the books were just so big, which, you know, skews a little bit my perspective. I try not to count books as much, and just, you know, read what I enjoy, but it felt like it was too little for a month, but it is what it is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed these reviews. If you've read any of these books, please leave your opinion of them down below. I would love to know your opinions, especially for Words of Radiance, because I kind of want to know if I'm alone there, because if you look at the good reviews, I'm like in the minority, in like the really, really small minority when it comes to my opinion of the book. So yeah, leave that down below. If you've read any like great books, leave those down below. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!